All right, let's just jump right in. What if I told you there's this secret Soviet-era doomsday machine, a real ghost of the Cold War, that might still be active, just waiting for a signal even today?
I mean, think about it for a second. We all have that picture in our heads, right? Some world leader, their finger hovering over a big red button. But what if you just took the human out of that equation entirely? What if the final world-ending order didn't come from a person at all, but from a machine?
And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. This thing is real. Its official name was the Perimeter System, but it got a nickname that is just way more terrifying: the Dead Hand. And its job? Well, its job was chillingly simple: to make absolutely sure that a full-scale nuclear retaliation would happen, even if every single person in the Soviet leadership was already gone.
Okay, so that brings up the big question, doesn't it? Why in the world would anyone build something so apocalyptic? To really get it, we have to go back in time and understand the pure existential fear that gave birth to this thing.
You see, back in the Cold War, the #1 nightmare for military planners wasn't just a nuclear war. It was something much more specific and way more terrifying. It was called a decapitation strike. Just imagine a surprise attack, totally out of the blue, so fast and so precise that it wipes out a country's entire leadership before they even know what hit them, before they can even think about ordering a retaliation.
And this is where that fear started to get really, really real. Back in the 60s and 70s, yeah, you had about a 30-minute warning, enough time to figure out what was happening. But then the 1980s hit, and with them came these new, super-accurate Trident missiles launched from submarines. Suddenly, a U.S. sub could sneak right up to the coast, and that 30-minute warning, poof, it shrinks to less than 3 minutes. The time you have to confirm an attack and make the biggest decision in all of human history just slammed shut. A whole new problem, needing a whole new and frankly a much scarier solution.
So facing this threat of being wiped out in an instant, the Soviets came up with their ultimate insurance policy. Let's take a look inside the perimeter system and see exactly how this thing was designed to work.
Now, the first thing to get is that perimeter wasn't the main system. It was never supposed to be Plan A. It was purely a backup. Think of it as a last resort communication network, designed to kick in if, and only if, all the normal ways of giving the launch order were completely destroyed.
And this is where you see the cold, hard logic of the machine. One of its own developers, a guy named Valery Yarinich, broke it down into this 4-step process. Okay, so step 1, it's not always on. A human leader has to physically activate it during a major crisis. Step 2, once it's on, the system just listens. It's monitoring a whole network of sensors, looking for the telltale signs of a nuclear attack on their own soil. Seismic activity, radiation, changes in air pressure. Step 3, at the same time, it's constantly checking for a live comms link to the military high command. And then step 4, and this is the big one. If it detects a nuclear attack and that communication line goes dead, the system makes an inference. It assumes the leadership has been wiped out, and at that moment, it transfers the authority to launch.
So how does it actually do all this? Well, it really comes down to 2 main parts. First, you've got this special command rocket. You can basically think of it as a messenger of the apocalypse. It's designed to launch, fly across the country, and just broadcast the go codes to all the missile silos that are left. And the second part is the autonomous control system. That's the brain of the operation. It's hooked up to all the sensors, and it's the part that's actually doing the monitoring for war and checking if the phone line to the bosses is still working.
But that all leads us to the most chilling question in this entire story. Once that process is triggered, who or what actually makes the final call? Is it a person, or is it the machine?
And for decades, that one question has been the central mystery of the Dead Hand system. Was this thing a truly automatic doomsday device, or was there still a human in the loop somewhere? The stories, well, they conflict. Let's take a look.
So in one corner, you have people like Colonel General Kurobushin. This guy was a former high-ranking official in the Strategic Rocket Forces, so he would know. And back in '92, he flat out said the system would automatically launch everything, just based on the sensor data, no humans required. A true, honest-to-God doomsday machine.
But then, you hear a totally different story. This version, from author David Hoffman, paints a different picture. He says, yes, the system could figure out that the leadership was gone, but it wouldn't launch the missiles itself. Instead, it would pass the launch authority down to 3 officers sitting in some deep reinforced bunker, so the final, awful decision would still be made by people. Hoffman even says that when the original designers looked at plans for a fully automatic system, they basically said, no way, this is absolutely crazy.
So let's just lay it out side by side so it's super clear. You've got the machine version, totally automatic, no human input needed. Then you have the men in the bunker version, semi-automatic, where the machine just hands off the final decision to a few survivors. Which one is true? Well, that's still wrapped up in a whole lot of secrecy.
Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, what a terrifying piece of Cold War history, something we can just study from a safe distance now, right? Well, maybe not. Let's talk about where the dead hand fits into our world today. Get this. As recently as 2011, the commander of Russia's strategic missile forces, a guy named Sergei Karakayev, he went on the record. He publicly confirmed that the perimeter system is still operational. It is still on combat duty.
And that wasn't just some random comment either. This thing keeps popping up. In 2018, you had a former Russian general saying that the US pulling out of the INF Treaty could actually affect how well perimeter works, linking this old system directly to modern geopolitics. And it gets even more recent. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev actually used the words dead hand in a social media post, which was a big enough deal that it got a response from the US president. So yeah, this is not just history, it's a living, breathing part of the conversation right now.
Which leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? Is it doomsday machine, like the dead hand, something designed to guarantee Armageddon? Is it the ultimate deterrent that actually prevents war? Or is it the ultimate danger, just an automated apocalypse waiting for one bad line of code, one sensor glitch, or one terrible miscalculation? That's definitely something to think about.